Good morning. I'm downtown Logan Brown,
And I'm Braydon.
and this is the Pickleball Effect podcast.
Thanks for joining us. So this week we have 3 different segments. Our first segment is going to be talking about Logan's experience at MLP in Atlanta. He attended on Saturday. We're going to get his inside scoop. And then we're going to do our in or out segment. And then we're going to finish with paddle battle.
Let's go.
So Logan, MLP Atlanta, you were there on Saturday. You drove up Saturday morning, right?
Yeah. I left around 7 a.m. Drove down, really, technically. So maybe about 2 hours to get there from Greenville, South Carolina to Peachtree Corners, which is like right outside of Atlanta.
What a cool name.
So I rolled in
Corners.
Peachtree Corners. Yeah, everything's peach down there, Georgia peaches. So but it was cool. Like we parked off site. So it was at a Lifetime Fitness, which is the same venue, not the same venue, but the same ownership venue that I went to for the PPA in Charlotte. They're really cool, like massive.
I didn't realize
facilities.
Lifetime had like outdoor stuff. I thought they were all indoor places.
Oh no, I mean even the Charlotte one, it was an indoor pickleball tournament at the Charlotte one, but there was tons of clay pickleball courts, a massive pool. Clay? I really think Lifetime is kind of like democratized the country club lifestyle. It feels like showing up to a country club with like a gym.
Hold on, back up. You said they had clay courts, or did that slip?
No. Yeah, there was like clay tennis courts. I mean, not for pickleball.
I thought you were talking about pickleball. I was like, what?
No, sorry. I don't think anyone's made a dedicated. I can mention that, by the way. I messaged somebody about clay pickleball the other day, but I don't think anyone's made a dedicated clay pickleball court yet that I know of.
Gotcha. Well, so it's a big venue. How many? But this was all outdoor. They had a huge stadium. Did they build the grandstand, the championship court? Like, was that built for the event, or they just build around one of the courts they already had?
Yeah, well, let me tell you about it. It's pretty cool. So this main court they have is actually built, I imagine, for the tennis tournament. I can't remember if it's the Atlanta Open. It's one of those big ones that's kind of like a qualifier for the majors. But a year ago or 2 years ago, like Francis Tiafoe and some of the big names that are U.S. American tennis players, I've played there. So it is, of course, like a bigger thing, but like the massive grandstand that you saw is literally cement with bleachers. It's super like vertical, like it's very tall. So even when you're sitting there, it doesn't matter what seat you're on, you kind of feel like you're on top of the court.
Oh, nice. It looked like a sweet setup.
It was cool. And then like, so on every side, here was what was neat. If you're on the massive grandstand, like the cement, that's the GA, like general admission.
Courts. There's a grandstand and a championship court. So we're talking about the championship court, right?
Yeah, I just mean like whatever you would call the stands on the championship court.
Okay, we'll call it championship just so we're all on the same page.
Yeah, thanks for calling it out. So yeah, championship court on the main whatever stands. If you look to your right, there was above the massive screen. That was the pro team owner tent. So only owners of pro teams were up there, but they had like, I don't know, friends, family, whatever.
Just watching from there.
Yep. And then across from you was VIP. So if you bought a VIP pass, you're on the opposite side of the main stands.
And that was like floor level or close to, wasn't it?
I think no, I'll tell you about floor level. That was to the left of you. So across from you was still elevated. That's VIP.
Across from you. Okay, gotcha. That's how they have it set up at most PPAs. Got it.
Yeah, they're a little more elevated. And so then to the left of me was the player tent. It was a massive players tent. Plus, like you had to have a player's pass or a player's guest pass to be essentially on the ground level. And there might have been 3 or 4 rows of seats there. But that's where like Trae Young was sitting and
massage booths or something.
I mean, it seemed like it was not luxurious, but really nice. I mean, the depth of this tent had to have been 30 feet by 60 feet wide. I mean, it was a solid space for them. Yeah.
So did you spend your whole time at the championship court? Or did you move around?
I bebopped a little bit. So when I got there, it was like 9:30 and the crowd was already big. I got there like as fast as I could and it was still already crowded. And yeah, 9:30, I went to the championship court.
Hold on. So it did feel crowded because there were definitely moments watching the live stream where the championship court didn't look that full, but it was, or was that just, maybe that was just the non-premiere day?
Yeah, I think it depends on what day you're watching. So Thursday was all challenger level. I would say that even during the challenger final, which I was down on the championship court for that on Saturday around 2 Eastern, it wasn't as busy. But for what I mean, I guess the first match of Premier on Saturday was 10 a.m. and I was there at 9:30, and it was pretty packed, like packed enough to where I didn't want to like walk down more than 3 or 4 rows from the top because I wasn't sure if I could really squeeze in. But I mean, the teams had set up the entire crowd. The crowd had kind of split between Bay Area Breaker fans and Orlando Squeeze. The Orlando Squeeze
so people
team
were picking sides and stuff.
It kind of happened.
There's no way there's like an established like fan base yet.
I don't think it was super established, but the teams were doing a great job of handing out swag and cheer materials. You know, like
so
they're
like trying
together.
They're trying to win the crowd to their team.
Yeah, and I mean the Squeeze. I mean, I thought it was wild. Now that I look back at it, that morning they had just done the best job out of any other team I saw the rest of the day at rallying folks behind them. They had the best swag. Like they were one of the only ones with really good t-shirts and cool designs up in the swag booth at Fromouth. And they set up the whole crowd with like these kind of things you'd bang together to make noise. They had 2 ladies in the crowd. They were like kind of like the head cheerleaders for them. And it was a cool, it felt like a really good high school football game, I guess. That's how I could describe it.
Well, that's pretty smart because there's no established, following for either team. Like the crowd is up for grabs.
Agreed. Yeah. And the other part about the established stuff, I mean, it seemed like there were people there that maybe had, because Atlanta is such a melting pot, it seemed like there were some folks who were gung-ho about a certain city, maybe because they were from there. Like I saw people that were like decked out in Chicago Slice gear.
Really?
I don't really know why else they would be, unless they were just big Ben Johns or Jesse Irvin fans or whatever. But
yeah, I wonder how much of that could be like you follow players, because right now I think more people follow players than teams.
Yeah.
Like I tuned in to watch specific games that I thought were going to be more interesting because like I follow the players closer. But yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, that's how sports work, right? Like if this team lives in your city, you cheer for them.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, back to your question about whether or not I jumped around. So I went to Grandstand Court as well because I wanted to watch. Miami was playing Columbus, and I was kind of interested to see Tyson play. And they had a new girl. So I mean, like, fast forward, Miami makes it to the semis, which is amazing. They had to get a substitute from challenger level
they
to
got
take
an alternate.
Yeah,
Allison Harris or something.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, outside of Rohrbacher, I mean, she has to be the follow-up MVP of the tournament. The fact that she could jump in and did as well as she did.
Oh, really? You thought she did well? I watched a couple of theirs, and I kind of thought the opposite. Like I felt like Tyson was really stretching himself on mix. I don't know how many mixed games they won, and singles. Usually there's one weaker singles girl, and they always put her against the weaker person. And she always squeezed a couple points out.
Yeah,
but I didn't think. I felt like she was surviving more than thriving. But you thought the other way around?
No, I'm with you, surviving. But I just thought that for someone who got pulled up, when you think about Challenger versus Premier, I kind of had put these two groups at quite different levels from each other, and I just thought she did a pretty good job, all things considered. Like she dug out some really great points.
Sure, yeah.
She was doing a pretty good job on the right side, but
yeah, definitely a player. Yeah, she'll get better, but yeah, I mean, she doesn't have that experience. She played mostly APP stuff. I've seen her some there, but I've never really seen her do any PPA. So she's playing new people, and they're all better than folks she's normally playing. So she was really thrown in the deep end. But yeah, she held her own, and they did great. That was actually a really good team. Like Stacksrud and Tyson somehow scored Tyra, and
with Mary, I think would have been they made it to the semis.
Tough.
Like they
would have been really tough.
Yeah, and DC was a really good team. I watched them play against the Slice on Saturday. At some point, it was a good matchup. Went to a dream breaker.
Did you stay there all day? You got there at 9:30. When did you leave?
Yeah, candidly, I left around 3:30 because I'm, of course, a big college football fan. My team was playing Alabama, which is a big game.
You had to. Did they win? You're an Ole Miss fan, yeah?
Yeah, Ole Miss fan, but no, we didn't win.
No, was it close?
It was close for a while until the fourth quarter, and we ended up losing by 10 points, maybe 14. Can't remember. 24-10 maybe.
It's a long day of pickleball. So even like they didn't finish till like late that night on Saturday with all the quarterfinal matches. Like it was, I can only imagine how like taxing that is on the players. But even like just watching it from home, it's like it was too much. And if you just turned it on, at least like from my perspective, it was kind of hard to follow. Like you didn't really know the gravity of each game or match until the quarters. Like obviously you knew what was on the line at the quarters. Although I did pull up MLP's website, and it was actually pretty slick. I was able to kind of catch up on like where teams were in the group and start to figure out, you know, who's winning, who needs to win, who's losing, and those things. But once I pulled that up, okay, that kind of brought me in on what was going on. But just watching it, it was kind of hard to tell and follow it a little bit. Was it that way being there?
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a handful of things that I think went really well at the tournament, and a handful of things I think they could do a lot better. And I think that, like, I ended up sitting down with the hype guys, and there was this couple next to me, this older couple, and they were like, I mean, hardcore fans. We're just chatting me up about the players. They knew who all of them were and who they play with, but even them, so the hardcore fans, they were not aware of what that Chicago Slice versus the DC pickleball match meant. So I like was telling them, I was like, listen, you know, Utah is playing on court 3. If Utah wins this match and Chicago Slice wins this match, we're going to go down to a net game differential about who makes it to the quarters. And they're like, oh, really? Well, how does that work? And I was just, there wasn't a ton of time for them to explain this stuff, but I wish they would have put something on the board that explained, like showed the current standing with net games, and like they could have really hyped that up a bit more.
With the round robin format, it is kind of hard to follow just inherently. And if you're not broadcasting it, yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, having it on my phone helped a lot.
And I couldn't even get service there, so I had no idea what the score was.
Yeah, when you have so many people in one area, it's really hard to get internet and crap.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. What other, you know, kind of thoughts or takeaways you had from being there?
Well, I thought, I mean, as far as like what they did really well, I thought the venue was set up in a really cool way. It was still kind of tight, like the area where you'd walk through and pass all the vendor booths. That was a little tight, but it also felt like bigger than it was. Couldn't tell you how many people were there, but like it felt like multiple hundreds of people. Maybe it's more like 1,000. I don't know, but the stands looked packed. It felt like there were a lot of folks there. They still did a great job. Like you could bring your own water bottle in. They might have even been giving away free water bottles in the refill stations. It's like keeping you hydrated and stuff was great and easy. I think that they did an awesome job. I was not expecting the teams to be handing out the swag they were to try to get just random fans on their side during a match. Sure. That was really cool. I also thought that, here's a cool thing that was way better than PPA is they had an MC. Do you follow Tropickle?
Yeah, he's hilarious.
So they hired him to be the MC of the event, and I thought he really did a good job.
So like in between games, he's out on the court
during the game. I mean, every time out, and I guess maybe this wasn't on TV, but he was announcing players. He had his computer up there behind the referee, and he was calling out the players on both teams, you know, with these really awesome intros that had been written.
So he was kind of like he replaced like the DJ Selkirk role at PPA's kind of thing.
I just thought, yeah, but the DJ was amazing. He has
such a great voice, the Tropickle dude. Like he is meant for MCing.
he was doing his own thing, but there was also a DJ there, and I thought the DJ was crushing it. Like he was playing mainly instrumental music, but he was layering in like mashups. And so in between, like if there was a timeout or in between games, like it was just solid. I didn't even know where he was. Maybe it was all pre-done, but it was good. And overall, I think that really elevated it because as soon as there was some sort of break in the game, the MC was on the mic trying to hype up both teams. He was like, who's here for the Chicago Slice? It was like, you know, they yell. And he's like, who's here for the Breakers? And they yell. And it's like this kind of thing just really, I felt, elevated the experience and made people get louder than they probably normally would be.
Nice.
But I do think that I do think they could have done a better job with food. I think they could have done a better job with, like, Ultra was like their sponsor. And I was very, very surprised they didn't just have somebody walking through the crowd with like just selling beer, because I think it could have loosened a lot of people up. It would have been,
They probably would have made some money.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Otherwise, you have to go all the way inside to get a beer.
Yeah,
I didn't really see anybody with beers.
That's surprising.
Yeah, well, I mean, you had to like walk all the way across the venue to go inside to get it.
They made it harder than it needed to be.
Yeah, yeah. What'd you think? So, sitting from home or in general, like, did you pay attention to the new freeze rule change?
Yeah, it definitely changed things up. So it used to be you would freeze at 20, and then the following team had to freeze at 18 or above, and you could only score on your point or on your serve. They changed it that once you hit 20, you still have to score on your serve, but the following team doesn't freeze. But if you're tied at 20, it goes back to rally.
Yeah.
So you can only win off your serve, but like there's always like rally involved. It seemed like it made the games closer.
Anecdotally, I would say that it made the games very close. Yeah.
Which makes sense because they freeze at 20, but they keep scoring until they get to 20.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of like super close games. It felt like every match like came down to the wire, especially in the quarters. Like somebody would be up 2-1 in the team score, and then the final game would be like 20-20, and someone would end up winning like 23-21. And it made it really exciting from the viewership side. Like I don't know how the players felt about it, but it made everything seem super close.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I felt too. I think they were trying to do it from a speed standpoint. I don't know if that worked. I'd be curious to know when they look back at the analytics, did it actually speed up the games?
The length of the games? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I think it was a little unfair, but
yeah, I don't know if it's the most fair approach. I mean, just rally scoring in general, I don't think it's as fun to play, but it does move things along. Just watching, which is probably good. But it was just an interesting weekend overall as far as who won. Like Ann Lee, Ben Johns didn't really
they weren't at the end
do much.
Yeah.
I saw Ben I think lost in the quarters to the Miami Pickleball Club, and then I'm not sure what happened to Ann Lee's team. Where did they end up?
Well, so they had beat Chicago on Saturday, on Friday night. Excuse me. They had beat Chicago Slice, which is Ben's team, on Friday. So on Saturday when I got there, here was where my quarrel was like, do I watch Chicago Slice play DC? DC at that point had won 2 games already in their group, and that was that group that had all the good players. So it had Riley, it had Christian, it had Ben, it had Anna Lee, and then you had like James Ignatowicz on Dallas. So Dallas already lost 2. Dallas is pretty much done. But Anna Lee's team had to go play Dallas, and if they win, and then Chicago Slice had won, which they did, it would have come down to the net game differential between all 3 of them. But Rob Nunnery had to substitute for AJ Kohler, who AJ Kohler is on the Utah Black Diamonds with Anna Lee, because AJ had to go to his sister's wedding, I think. And they ended up losing to Dallas. So Dallas literally crushed their dreams, on Saturday. So I don't know how it would have shaken out otherwise, but we'll never know. Maybe next time.
We had some like really interesting finalists. So it was Orlando Squeeze. It was on ESPN2, and
you don't have ESPN2, do you?
I did it. I can hack it, but I didn't realize it was ESPN2 until it was too late, because like I had turned on the YouTube stream, and it like MLP had a live stream like on, but it just had like a filler screen that just made it look like it was a rain delay or something.
Yeah.
So I just left that on. Like it just sat there forever, and I was like, "What is going on? This is weird." Like it didn't say tune into ESPN2, and then I finally look up on their Instagram. They're like, it's on ESPN2. I was like, crap. So I like totally missed it, which is a bummer. But I saw Orlando Squeeze one. So it was Deescu and
Zane
Navratil. Who else was it? It was
Anna Bright, and that's the
Rohrabacher.
Yeah.
And then who did they play?
So they played DC. So that was...
They played DC. And that was Alshon, Newman,
and the
Kawamotos?
I've heard it's not Cow. It's Kawamoto's.
Okay.
Kawamoto. I don't know. Anyway, I can't say it.
And that went to Dreambreaker, yeah?
Yeah, that went to Dreambreaker with DC up 2 games to love. Pretty wild, right?
But yeah, I mean, like a really, really interesting finalist. Like you would not have guessed that they were going to win. The Orlando Squeeze pulled it out. You know, good for Zane Navratil. The dude hasn't won anything since they took away his spin serve. So
except for MLP, well, this is pre-spin serve, but he has an MLP championship as well. Back with the black
so he needed a confidence booster. I think this boosts Andre a lot. So like Andre typically only plays APP.
Yeah.
This kind of I think lifted him up in a lot of people's eyes as far as his ability and his skill. But yeah, I mean Newman, he was probably the highest ranked player that made it to the finals.
Yep.
But really, really fun. It definitely the dynamic of MLP definitely is different. You see different teams, different players, different people succeed than the normal, which is fun and entertaining.
Yeah, it was cool. It was cool. And I think, I don't know, the level of play was so high. I mean, even in the challenger level finals, like CJ Klinger was on another level.
He played great. Yeah.
I just wish I could have seen like that, like literally take how he was playing there and put it against a premier team. Cause when you see it, it's not exactly side by side, but I just watched premier level match. Now I'm watching this and man, like it felt just as high level. It did not feel like I was watching a high school sport or something.
He was impressive. Yeah, I think Klinger. And like, I mean, how old is the kid? He's like 17 or something.
Yeah, I don't think he's out of high school.
Yeah, he's only going to get better. Yeah, he's just, I swear every time I watch him, he's taller, he's better. Playing with Todd Fote. So Todd's another kind of interesting character. Like he plays PPA, but doesn't get too far. Typically he'll win, maybe 1 or 2 matches on a good tournament. But he came through here. So Todd's from Utah. I actually played with him like 2 years ago. This is kind of funny. Like when he first started playing, we played and it was like the second week he'd ever played. And now he just won challenger level MLP. So that's cool. Good for him. Dang. Yeah, I was really happy for that team. But yeah, dude, that was MLP. It was a lot of pickleball. I was surprised I couldn't do it all. I didn't watch as much as I thought I would. But to me, it was more entertaining once the quarterfinals and things came around.
Yeah, for sure. I could see that. Makes sense.
And attending, like you didn't stay all day. Like there's no way people can stay all day. I'm sure there's people in and out because they went from like 9 to 9. It was literally all day long.
Yeah, I mean, I think I could have, if I was staying in town, I probably could have done all day. Again, the food situation was not the best. It certainly wasn't healthy. And so staying all day means you'd have to do 2 meals there, which I wouldn't have wanted to do. And also like the sun's beating down on you all day, which is no fault to them. That's every probably major sport, but I probably would have.
Except for all of the indoor ones, which is.
Oh, if you go to a basketball game, NBA. But I mean like if you go to tennis, you go to golf, whatever, football. I mean, it's all outdoors. So
right.
I think I just would have brought like more sunscreen and maybe something to go across like my ears and neck because it was really banging down on my neck at some point. So,
gotcha. Well, cool, man. I'm glad you had fun. Let's jump over to our in or out segment.
Let's do it.
So our first topic here is another tournament question. So I played in a tournament this Saturday. I did not like how it was organized. It was very frustrating. And so it was set up in like this pool play format. So the question I'm asking is, are you a fan of pool play or double elimination for tournaments? And I'm going to argue my case for double elimination and share my story from this weekend. So
yeah, explain the pool play and like why you were in pool play to begin with.
Yeah. So the difference between pool play and double elimination is pool play, you'll have say 8 people sign up for the tournament. Then everyone plays each other once. And then like the top 4 teams advance to a playoff to determine first, second, or third. Then you have like a double elimination style tournament where it's just this traditional tournament, right? Like if you win, you move on. If you lose, you fall down to a loser's bracket. And then once you lose twice, so once you lose in the loser's bracket, then you're out.
Okay.
So you could only play 2 games potentially in a traditional tournament, double elimination bracket. So this tournament was this is just an independent tournament. It's not like a PPA or anything like that. It's called the Boise Open. So it's really close to me. I did this last year. It wasn't run well last year, but this year they threw in $15,000 for all the open play events, which is
wow,
pretty good for something like this. So it drew in a pretty good crowd. There were 30 teams that signed up for the open division. This was men's doubles. I only did men's doubles this weekend. And so there were some teams from Utah, some teams from Washington. It kind of, when you have money involved, it's going to bring in, better teams from around the area.
Yeah.
But there's 30 total teams. And so instead of doing a traditional double elimination bracket, they did a pool play. And what they did was they did a pool A and a pool B. So they had 15 teams in pool A, 15 teams in pool B. And then within those pools, they did 3 different groups. So you either had, if you're in group like 1, 2, or 3.
Yeah.
And you did round robin with those 5 people. So I played 4 total games in my group of 5 people. And then the top, or the team, one team would move on from each pool. So there were 6 total pools. 6 teams moved on to play in a double elimination tournament to finish it and determine 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Okay.
So I'm in this this pool. There's 5 of us. These are the scores of our games. We win 11-0, 11-1, 11-0, and then we lose 11-8 to the team that eventually took 3rd. And because we lost to them, we didn't make it through the pool play. So it was 1 game to 11, really short matches. We were done in like an hour and a half to 2 hours. Like, it was really short. And I was just really frustrated. I just felt like that this format was not the best format to determine who the best teams were there. Because so like us I feel like we kind of got snubbed there a little bit. Like we played a good match against that team, but ultimately we lost, and so we were done. There were 2 or 3 other teams that were also like I thought were really solid teams that didn't make it through because they lost to like the 1 or 2 seeds or the the eventual winners. So there's several teams that were like really, really solid that didn't make it through the pool play and have a chance at the prize money. And from my perspective, like I only had 1 good game. Like this is open tournament, so like anyone can sign up. And so the 3 teams we beat, like they weren't that strong and it's like we just beat them pretty handedly. The very first, this is kind of comical. I don't know what happened. So the very first team we played, like they walked onto the court with Walmart paddles.
And they were in the open division.
Yeah. I was like, I bet this was the first tournament they've ever played and they had no idea what we were doing. Like, I'm pretty sure the game was only like 3 or 4 minutes long.
Yeah.
It was, I think they messed up there. But anyways, like in a double elimination tournament, like teams like that get weeded out pretty quick. And then, the games get progressively harder, right? And anyways, I just felt snubbed. I didn't feel like I had a good chance at playing for the money. And it just was kind of luck of the draw on what pool you were put in to determine if you could go through or not. Because there were definitely some pools that were easier than others. And a handful of teams, that were super solid, didn't make it through, who could potentially have made a run in the playoffs. And anyways, I just did not like the format. And as a 5-0 player, I'm not there to get games. Like I feel like pool play style tournaments are like for charity events where you're just there to get games and have fun. Obviously, you want to have fun, but like we're there to try to win the money. Like it's competitive, and you want to decide who the best teams are. So I was really frustrated about the whole thing. Only got 1 good game. It was 1 game to 11. Like it was just really short. And anyways, I'm against pool play, but although like a year or 2 ago, I was actually kind of a fan of pool play because like at that time I was like, oh, I want to get games against higher level players. Like I was a 4-0 and then I would sign up for 4 or 5 events, and then I wanted to get experience with higher level players. So like I feel like pool play is great for people who want to play up and they're guaranteed games with higher level teams. But for the teams that are there, that are like really competing and trying to win the money and make a deep run, like it's at a disadvantage for them. So I don't know. At the end of the day, like, you know what you're signing up for. If it's a double elimination, it's, this isn't a charity event. Like, you're there it's a tournament, and you're trying to think that's the best format to determine who the best, teams are, especially when you're playing for money. But I am against pool play, not a fan of it. I don't think it should be a thing at any level, because it keeps people honest. You can't have people play up who aren't that good or aren't as good, and then they're just guaranteed games. And so it keeps people honest, and I think it's more fun. It's more competitive. You feel the fire a little more. You feel a little more pressure for each match, which is what you want. What are your thoughts on it? Do you like pool play, or are you a double elimination guy?
I don't know. So help us, help the listeners out there understand. Let's say it was double elimination. You have 30 teams. Would you have still expected it to be split in 2 groups? And then, like, instead of being split then into, groups of 3, groups of 5, 3 groups of 5, would you have expected to play against the 15 teams double elimination style? And then if you make it through that, you got to go play the other side, the other 15?
I mean, there's a couple different ways you could set it up. Like, if you think of March Madness, how they have, 30 teams on each side and they meet in the middle, like, you could set it up that way, or you could, just have, well, actually, I think that's the only way to set it up is that way,
I guess. Yeah.
But, of course, depending on what side of the draw you're on, whether, the top 15 or the bottom 15 group, one might be harder than the other. And it's always tough to seed at these amateur tournaments, because you don't, like, the tournament directors don't often have all the information, and like, they'll usually, like, so this tournament was on pickleballbrackets.com, like, that's where you signed up. And so I have, like, a duper rating, and then I have a pickleball brackets rating. So my pickleball brackets rating is like 4.6 or something, when my duper is 5.0. So I get seated lower for, like, I don't know how they calculate the ratings, but that's just what my rating is on pickleball brackets. And so the seating is always weird for these amateurs. They're not always perfect, but I don't know. Best teams make it through. If you do, get caught with a really good team early, you fall to a loser's bracket, and you can still fight your way back there. And but that's how that works.
Yeah, no, I understand it. I mean, it's similar to the way that the MLP was just set up, right? But
they did the pool play and then the tournament.
But I mean, I'm on your side.
And there was one pool that was like the Miami Pickleball Club was, like, really tough compared to all the other ones. Like, it was almost unfair for that group.
Exactly. I mean, I'm on your side. I just I'm surprised they didn't do something like that. That way, because similar to what you and Porter did at TOC, where even when you lost in the main draw, you went like 3-1 in the back draw, right? So there's opportunity for you to kind of climb. If you made it APP style, there's room for you to climb back in from the back draw, which for you, like, you don't, like you said, you're not in the open side. You're not really there for games. You want the prize money. And so give everybody the most opportunity possible to go after the top spot, especially when you're doing short games. You're not doing a real match, I suppose, like 2 out of 3 or something.
Yeah. I don't know. It's we'll see what people say, if they prefer pool play or not, because sometimes I think it might, like, your opinion might change depending on
how you do.
On how you do, on, like, what your goal is from tournaments. Like, some people sign up for tournaments just because they want the games, right? And so, like, those style of players might prefer pool play. But I do feel like the APP kind of double elimination style does determine the best winners, and it keeps the levels honest, because weaker teams will get flooded out early, and then maybe they realize, okay, this is my level. Next time they sign up for a lower one, or vice versa. Like, if they win, then they jump up to the next level next time. And so I think there's a lot of benefits, for tournaments for that style of play. But I don't know. There's an argument for pool play. Sometimes I think if maybe that's the goal of the tournament for you, is just to get games. And certainly if you're like a lower level player playing up, you're guaranteed more games for you. But that sucks for the higher level teams who, like, maybe you squash, like, a mediocre team, and then then you have to go play a really good team right after that. And then you play a crappy team after that.
I know
Like,
you're
it's
so
just
up and
weird.
down. Yeah, you're not getting consistent.
Throws off your rhythm. But not a fan of pool play. I think they should get rid of those and make elimination. Just make it mandatory. Don't give tournament directors a choice.
Yeah, maybe. I'm curious to hear what people say in the comments, and I also want to know. Like, one thing I've been really curious of too. Maybe this is in our analytics. Is if people do comment on this, or regardless, let us know where you're playing. I want to know like where in the states or outside of the states they are.
Yeah, that's actually a great point, because I am yet to play a tournament in Idaho that has not been a pool play tournament.
Okay, yeah.
So like I traveled to Utah for tournaments, and I'm more likely to find a traditional double elimination tournament in Utah.
Okay.
And I'll sign up for those. And so that's a great point. Like Idaho, I don't know what their deal is, but they only do full play events.
Yeah, let's see what the rest of the world or country is doing. That'd be good.
You do like a league, which is kind of cool. There's nothing really like that around here.
That's always been my favorite thing. Even in tennis, like I really don't like tournaments, but I love league play. League play is really fun, in my opinion.
And it's just like a set, like Wednesday nights or something.
Yeah, I mean the thing I'm in now, like it's different than what I was doing for tennis. But what I do now is, you pick a partner, you choose a level, you get guaranteed. It's like maybe 8 weeks long or something. So we have 2 games or 2 matches a night, right? Best 2 out of 3 games every Tuesday night, and it's kind of like pool play into the playoffs. And the playoffs, that's how you're seeded. Playoffs is single elimination to the championship, which I think maybe starts this week or something.
That's cool. I like that. There's a big indoor place coming in here, and I imagine more leagues and stuff will come through as a result of that indoor place, just because it's easier to organize events when you like through like facilities, and like it's for profit. Like they have more incentive to set those kind of things up rather than through the city. But it's cool that your league's through the city.
Yeah, it's been good. But yeah.
And I remember you saying once that like doing the league like just guarantees a court for you in some games, because like showing up to open play is such a pain in the butt these days.
It's so rough. I mean, it's good and it's bad. I mean, right now it's so rough because the court quite literally, it might be 1,000 feet from my front door, if not less. Every day of the week, it has got to be almost 60 people down there. So now I drive.
So like, okay, those 60 people there, like how many courts? How many people are waiting?
So there's eight courts. And so there's
60 people for 8 courts isn't like a ton. So that's 8, that's 16, 32 teams at a time. And there's 80 people. So there's 20 people sitting.
Maybe more than. So basically I'll tell you the numbers. We have a rack that holds 4 courts worth. So that's 16 paddles. That's 16 people. And then there's normally 5 to 7 stacks on the ground. So what's 7 times 4?
Like it's like that every day.
Every day from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m.
Yeah, that's closer to that's like 80 to 100.
It gets really busy. So normally I drive 20 minutes away
just to get courts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was that's why I'm super stoked for these indoor courts coming in, just because I can like reserve courts now.
We have 2 more parks coming. I mean,
no one's going
to
be sniffing me, trying to get me off the court.
Right. No, I mean, yeah, the indoor spot will be awesome. We don't have, as far as I know, we don't have any kind of indoor spot being worked on, but we do have 2 more public parks that are building courts as we speak. So
nice.
Be helpful.
Yeah, America's catching up. They're working on it. It's tough to keep up.
Yeah, but I'm glad they are. It's good.
So we had one other in or out question. This one's yours. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to sound really jaded here, but throughout the weekend watching MLP, what I'm in or out on, or what I'm going to propose, is family members and whatever on the benches for these teams. The most notable out there right now is like Lee Waters, right? Who is the coach, I suppose, of whatever team Annalee's on. And then you have, like, when Catherine Parenteau is on the court, even in PPA, Athena, her life partner, is out there on the bench. And the reason he gets brought up now more than normal.
She's kind of a coach for her too, though.
I know, Braydon, whatever, dude. Like these people played 10.
These are coaches. These are family members.
They're both. They're family members. The only reason they are coaches is because they're family members, in my opinion. That's my in or out. I do not think. Please tell me if someone else has hired Lee Waters to be their coach, but I doubt it. Ben Johns doesn't when Ben Johns and Anna Lee are playing. Do you really think Ben Johns needs Lee Waters to tell him how to play? No.
There is some value to people watching from the outside because you can see things from the outside that you can't see when you're playing. That coaches play a role in. Like Lee's talking
100 championships, Braydon. 100.
Okay. I think we need to define coach versus family member.
I'm just saying these are both. Okay, whatever.
Like
they're both.
I mean, these ones happen to be both. But like, are you for just people period being on the bench? I mean, if you go watch an NBA game, the coach is on the sideline with them.
That's a legitimate coach. But yeah,
these are legitimate coaches.
It's not it. All right. So is Steph Curry's dad on the bench? No, he's not. He's not.
Well, he's not his coach.
But he could be. Why not? He played in the NBA.
But he's not.
He played in the NBA. He could be his coach.
Yeah, but he's not his official coach.
Right.
Yeah, and I guess there's other people on the bench, right? Like the team. Sometimes the team owners are there.
Yeah, this weekend the team owners were definitely down there, which was good. I mean, I think I brought it up more so not to give shade to Athena and Lee Waters. It was more so like the beef that happened with De La Rosa and Spencer Smith. And Spencer Smith's, this was said online, his girlfriend, I don't know who she was, but seemingly not a player, was getting involved in the altercation, which just led me to just pop this in there. Like, should this person even be anywhere near these players?
Yeah, we gotta give some background to this story. So if you didn't hear this was challenger level. Daniel De La Rosa, Spencer Smith are playing. Got pretty heated during the match. Yeah. After the match, De La Rosa walks up to Spencer Smith and gets like face to face, getting just mad about whatever. And then to what you're saying, Spencer Smith's girlfriend gets off the bench, and it looked like she went to go like step in between Spencer and De La Rosa to like back Spencer up, but she like pushed Spencer over. And when I first watched it, it looked like, or I thought De La Rosa pushed Spencer over.
Well, Adam Stone's on he's on the mic, right? Commenting, there was a push.
Adam Stone, he's the best announcer.
Yeah, he's good.
I like Adam. But when you go watch it, his girlfriend like pushed him over, kind of got involved. Yes, and in that scenario, I don't think it's cool to have your girlfriend or non-coach related players or someone like that like on the bench. I think that's silly. Like give them front row tickets, right? They can sit right behind your bench, but they shouldn't be on your bench. I can get behind that. But I know there's other people that sit on the bench. Like McGuffin has his like personal trainer sit on the bench with him. Ben Johns has his like physical trainer dude sit on the bench with him.
I think I'm
so there's definitely these different types of kind of coachy-ish type people.
Yeah. I'm team like choose a single person to be there for you. And I'm totally with the idea that it could be a headspace person. Like they're there not really to tell you how to play, but just make sure you're in a good mental mind state at all times.
Mm-hmm. Which is, I think, what like Ben Johns and Tyson McGuffin kind of have. And that could be, what Athena is as well as a coach.
Yeah. It just seems like there's some of these benches got a little deep. And I was like, what are all these people doing?
Did you see Trae Young there? Were you there when he was?
No, that was Friday. Would have been cool.
Was he on a bench?
He was not on the bench. No. And neither was there was another WNBA star that was there too for the Mad Drops. And I don't think they were on the bench either. I think they were hanging out front row, like you said. But I think if you're like involved with like the actual, they're all involved with the teams, but like if you're not involved in making that match or making those players better right then and there, I just don't think you should be down there.
Shouldn't be there. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if they happen to be a family member and a coach, leave them on there, Logan. Leave them there.
No, here's my beef about that. So there were Catherine, and I don't know where I saw this. I'm okay with like kind of one coach for the team. I don't agree with each player having their own coach all like 4 coaches.
So like in this environment, where it's like a team event, you could potentially have 4 coaches on there rather than just like a team coach.
Yeah, and there were times like Kyle McKenzie really took over as a coach, and it was cool to see. He's really,
and he was like a team coach, right? Not
team coach. Yeah, but then like I think with DC, I don't know who this guy is, and I apologize for not knowing his name, but I guess the coach. I mean, he was there, but really didn't say much. Like, Riley is taking over as the leader.
He wasn't as involved.
Yeah, I mean, he was there, standing there, but like Riley's the one, kind of like pumping people up and like talking about this or that. How are we going to do something? So anyway, probably not that big of a point of contention, but just my opinion.
Yeah. Well, let's jump over to Paddle Babble to finish us off.
Do it.
So there's just a flood of new paddles coming. So I said last week that the new Gearboxes are coming out. So I got those in the mail. You can see it here. It's kind of cool looking, really, really, really sexy looking paddle. They win there. I don't know like the construction of it yet. I don't know the details, but they have like this kind of cool siding on there. It almost looks like an edge guard type thing.
Yep.
But it is a raw carbon fiber paddle. I imagine the siding or the edge guard thing is there to cover up some of the kind of weirdness of putting raw carbon fiber on an edgeless paddle. So when you create a raw carbon fiber paddle, use what's called a peel ply, and it can make the edges of the paddle kind of funny looking.
Yeah.
When you apply it, and it's just not pretty. So I bet that's why they have that there, is just a more aesthetic and just kind of cover up what that looks like. But it is raw carbon. I don't know what else is different, if they change anything from the Ultimates. I'll be reviewing these ones next. I'm finishing up a review for the Engage Pursuit Pros right now, hoping to drop that this week. But with the Engage Pursuit Pros, I have this theory that I'm testing with these. So they have 4 paddles. They have like 2 elongated shapes and then 2 standard shapes. And then each of those shapes, or each shape option, has like a thinner and thicker core.
Okay.
So if we're talking about just their standard shapes, they have the 13 millimeter and a 16 millimeter. So when I've been playing with these, I feel like I can control the 13 millimeter better than the 16. Or excuse me, maybe control is not the right word. I feel like I can hit better drops with the 13 millimeter over the 16 millimeter, which is counterintuitive. Typically you think, okay, 16 millimeter is going to be more control oriented. It's going to be a little softer. It's going to be easier to hit drops. But with the 13 millimeter, just from playing with it, I feel like the ball just comes off the paddle lower. And this is the same with dinking. I feel like I can dink better with the 13 millimeter than the 16 millimeter. And the paddles are really poppy. And so the 13 millimeter, the ball I feel like it has a lower launch angle. So if I were to hit the paddles, if I were to drive or serve the ball with both paddles, I feel like the 16 millimeter, like the ball takes off higher and is more loopy.
Okay.
Whereas the 13 millimeter is a little flatter. And so it's almost easier to hit, to dink, and to drop with the 13 millimeter because it's not jumping up on you. Like the ball comes off hot, and it's nice that you can keep it lower and keep your dinks lower and your drops lower. And so I have this theory about launch angles, and this is something that no one really talks about with paddles, like launch angles. I know this is a topic in tennis. Was that something you ever considered with your tennis rackets? Like, did you look at launch angles?
No. I honestly, everything with tennis, because it was so accessible, I played with every brand. Mm-hmm. So it was just a feel thing for me. Like, did I feel like I was getting the ball that I wanted when I made this kind of shot and that kind of shot? With pickleball right now, I don't think everybody gets to really test every paddle on the market. They're kind of just buying and sticking with it or bailing. So what do you think though would make, what is it about the technology of a paddle that changes a launch angle?
Yeah, so I've been reading up on it. So this is a topic in tennis. It is like a measurement that they take in tennis. And when you have a tighter string pattern, aka a stiffer paddle, is what I'm like equating this to. Yep. You have a lower launch angle, and so the ball comes off quicker, right? For for a tighter string pattern tennis. When you have a more open string pattern, ball sits on there a little longer and it launches higher. And so my theory is that thinner core paddles they're stiffer. The ball doesn't sit on there as long. It just comes off quicker, and which equates to the tighter string pattern, and therefore it gives you a lower launch angle. And then the 60 millimeter could potentially equal an open string pattern or less strings, and the ball could sit on there a little longer and launches a little higher. So that's my theory. So I actually shot some video today. I just got a new GoPro that shoots 240 frames per second, so super slow-mo.
Cool.
I just got real close to myself, and I just hit a bunch of balls with each paddle. And I haven't done it yet, but I'm gonna go in and just try to find a couple of drives where the paddle is at the same angle, and just see if I can find something to either validate or unvalidate my thinking. It's not the perfect test, but it's the best idea I could come up with to try to figure out what the launch angle for these paddles might be. But
no, it's really interesting because now that you bring it up, I was specifically playing with 18 by 20 string pattern with tennis. So I did not like a 16 by 19. The open string pattern for me felt like less control and more like the ball would just kind of fly on me.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, it's interesting you're bringing that up now because I could see that with a thinner paddle where it kind of pops off much faster, less absorption. Therefore, maybe the time of impact where you're making impact with the ball on a thinner paddle, it's popping off right where you want it to. Whereas on a 16 millimeter, it might actually come off the paddle a little further in your swing because it's being absorbed. Yeah.
So that's what I'm thinking. And it's just very interesting with these because these are so poppy. I feel like I noticed it more than I do with other paddles. I've always had the sense that I could drive the ball better with thinner core paddles. And I think part of the reason is because it's a little flatter, stays lower. It's just easier to keep the ball in. But when it comes to like resets, so like when I'm absorbing stuff from the mid court, I'm trying to reset the ball. A thicker core paddle is better in that scenario because you're just trying to take pace off and just land one in the middle. And a thinner core is going to be harder to control in that scenario, but a thinner core may be easier with drops because the ball's going to stay lower, or with dinks because the ball's going to stay lower with the lower launch angle. And so it's kind of this like interesting give and take that is more prominent with these paddles than other paddles because they're just so poppy. But something I'm going to speak about in my final review and see if I can find something to validate or break that apart with this video that I shot today. But that's kind of a fun one that I'm thinking about that I don't know if anybody else has really considered.
Yeah, let us know what you find out. I mean, very cool. And is the Gearbox, is that a thicker paddle now, or are they still sticking with their super thin, like 12, 11 millimeter?
It's super thin. I think it's 14.
Oh, 14. Okay.
But it doesn't say on here.
Okay.
But definitely a good looking paddle. But yeah, I'll do that one next. And then I did my first paddle, or I'm doing my first paddle like consultation. So we had talked about this a few weeks ago. We're like, I did that thing for 6-0 with the weight distribution, and we're like, I need to create like a B Labs. And so it came up again where someone was like, hey, can you look at my paddle? And I was like, yes, for money.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. So tell us, how did you structure it, and how scientific are you getting versus just like your opinion on the feel and things like that?
Yeah. So what I'm doing, so they sent me a few paddles. I don't know if they want to say what brand it is, so I'll just keep this kind of ambiguous.
Is it well known or brand new on the market or what?
It's well known. Okay. And so they have a few different facing
materials,
different materials and grittiness, and so I'm going to do spin tests for all these different facing materials. See what numbers I get there, and then I'm just going to run the numbers, swing weight, twist weight, those kind of things. So I'll have some data I push over, and then I'm going to just play with each paddle and just kind of give them my general take on it. Like, okay, I think this is a control paddle. I think this is a power paddle. I think this is good here. This is bad here. And this is kind of where these potentially sit in the overall market. And anyways, I think it will be super valuable for them. And it's fun. So if you're a paddle brand listening to this, message me,
right.
B Labs.
Well, you know who's in your backyard who's also dropping a new paddle that could probably use your help is Selkirk, you know?
Yeah, they got their Lux. They made a post about that. I think this is replacing their Vanguard series. So I think this is going to be their 003 turned into
public market
like a
type of stuff.
Yeah. So that's kind of the purpose of their labs project, right? Like they have these experiments, they find one that fits, and then they convert it to I don't know what you'd call it, like their main lines or something.
I still want to play with one of those. So, I mean, I didn't get my O2 this weekend. So Selkirk, hook me up. I actually didn't even see Travis at all. Didn't pass by him at all. Yeah. The Ranchers didn't do so hot, and neither did the Smash. So,
yeah. So they got a new one out. I don't have that one yet. Selkirk is usually on top of the influencer thing. Like they actually have like an influencer program, right? I mean, they own so many
They're on top of
influencers. So I'm like plugged into their like influencer program. So when they have new products that they just kind of want to blast, to everybody, I don't even ask for it. Like they just mail it to you. And so
nice.
I imagine they'll just send me a few of these. Typically, because I'm like one of the main reviewers, they'll send me like all their shapes instead of just one of the paddles. And if they don't, then I ask for all the shapes and they send them to me. But they're pretty good about that. So when those are getting close, I'm sure I'll get those. Anna Lee was playing with her signature paddle this week. It looked like it's a raw carbon. I don't know the details on that, or maybe it's their iced carbon thing. I don't know. But it didn't do anything for her. I thought a new paddle would like really make a big difference for her, but their team didn't do anything. Or maybe she played good. I don't know. I didn't watch all her stuff. But she's got that coming out. Yola's got some new stuff coming out again. I guess they're going to do like a flood of paddles before Christmas and stuff. They did this last year where they just dumped a ton of paddles right before Christmas. And I think they're going to do that again. But they had two different, I think it was just two models come through the USAP like approved list. So there's like this website that USA Pickleball manages, where every approved paddle that comes through, they like
post it,
populate it there and post it there. Yeah. And so that's where I get my inside scoop on paddles that are coming out.
I mean, you're thinking this is just the Hyperion with a curved head.
Yeah. So it looks like the shape of the Hyperion. I imagine it's the Perseus like thermoform style. A lot of people I like mentioned it on Instagram, and I got a ton of messages like, "Oh, that's probably Tyson McGuffin's new paddle." And I guess there's rumors that Tyson might sign with Yola, which will be a topic for another day because I have a lot of thoughts about that. I think it's fascinating that he might leave Selkirk when he's been there for so long.
Yeah, agreed.
But so Yola's got a bunch of stuff coming out. And then Riley Newman announced his signature paddle that's coming out in January. This is with Takia. I still don't know why a water bottle brand is making pickleball stuff. And it's weird when you go to their website, like they have all their normal stuff and then they have this new pickleball, tab with their paddles, and I don't even know what else is on there. I haven't looked at it too close, but
if anybody out there picks up that paddle, it's available online. I want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I think you can go buy it right now, but you can't buy his signature paddle. You can just buy a Takia paddle, which is the one he's playing with right now. I think it's just just kind of a typical thermoform paddle. But this, his new one, I don't know if they're doing something different or if they're just slapping his signature on it. Riley posted some stuff on Instagram, probably like, it's been a while now, probably 2-3 months ago, where like he flew to China and was supposedly a part of some sort of R&D project there for his signature paddle. So he's making that with them in January. That is when that comes out. So, which is an interesting launch date. Like you'd think you'd want to get that out.
You really want to try to make the holiday push. Yeah.
Yeah. People spend money during that time. But yeah, I can't wait for the day when there's like a season for new paddles. I just feel like new paddles are just coming out constantly.
Right.
And like, it's just so overwhelming. There's so many brands still, so many paddles. Like it's just impossible to keep up. Like you just have, as a reviewer, like you have to be very selective on what you
want to touch,
what you review. And like, I don't do a ton of negative reviews just because I play with a ton of paddles I don't review that I didn't really like, but like it's not worth it for me to go give a negative review about like a lesser known brand.
Right.
Right. And so I just don't do reviews of those. But I will, like, if there's a paddle I didn't like from like a well known brand like the Pursuit Ultras, right? Like I didn't speak too highly of those, but because it was Engaged, I posted that one.
I still think one thing that you and
like.
Chris haven't really done. I mean, Chris did his YouTube video on like his top paddles, but I still think something written out that gives your somewhat of a ranking, even if there's subjectiveness to it. So use all your stats, but then say, this is my favorite paddle currently because price and feel, or something along these lines.
Sure.
Like, I think that would help the market, even if it's not a paddle you're going to do a video on or a write-up, even if it's in your list, I think it would help.
Just to say like, oh, look, I've played with this. And
yeah, like this is my top 25, but I don't do any videos that are under my top 20 or something.
I do have like my hot list. And so I have like 6 paddles for power, all court, and control. Like it's kind of along those lines where I say, these are my 6 favorite paddles in this category. And then I list them out and give a little more information. When you click through those, that page actually gets a lot of traffic. It's kind of what you're talking about, but not quite the same. But yeah, maybe when I go full time one of these days, I'll be able to knock out more crap like that.
Absolutely.
But that's it for us, dude. That is the end of the podcast.
Way to put the hammer down.
Yeah, we've been going at it for an hour already.
I know.
It went by quick for me. I feel like a quick one for you.
It was great. Are we still live? Are we on the air?
We're on the air.
All right. Well, if you're still everyone. Watching, please let us know what questions, ideas. I want to hear from folks. What can we talk about next week? I'm gonna share my idea about an MLP marketing idea to get the masses involved with certain teams. So I'll share that next week. More to come.
All right. Well, there we go. See you, everyone.